Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijender Singh Tamar, Associate Professor in English. At present, I have been posted at Government College, Guda. During this critical period, as we are compelled to teach you through video, so in this connection, today's video is meant for the students of Class BA Part 3rd, Subject English Literature, paper first, and in this video we will talk about Robert Browning's famous poem My Last Duchess, Critical Appreciation. First of all, let us talk about the poet. Robert Browning is a name. He is one of the most famous poet of Victorian age. He was born in 1812 and died in 1889. He was not one of the popular poets of Victorian age, but in all the say ages, he occupies an important place. He was a poet, playwright, and he has a mastery of dramatic verse, particularly dramatic monologue. And he, by the his achievement of dramatic monologues, he became one of the best poet who could write best dramatic monologues. His fame today rests on his dramatic monologues, in which the words not only convey setting and action but also reveal the speaker's character. Primarily, Browning is a poet of man. He has presented all types of men and women in his poetry. He has written poems on lover, murderer, saint, scholar, etc. Means all the characters of the society have been chosen by him. He is known for his intellectual vigor and his psychological studies of human nature. From his poems, it appears that he is concerned with the soul of man. Though he was a Christian, he used to believe in the immortality of soul, that is Hindu philosophy. He is always interested in studying the actions and reactions of the human mind and heart in a particular situation. His aim is to lay bare the entire soul of his characters against the background of the critical situation of their lives. In other words, he chooses a very critical situation or a turning point in the life of a character, and then he presents what is going on in the mind and heart of the character before the audience or reader. Now about the poem. The poem My Last Duchess was first published in the volume of poems entitled Dramatic Lyrics in 1842. It was also included under Dramatic Romances of 1868. It is a dramatic monologue and it is regarded as one of the finest dramatic monologues not only of Browning's but in the whole range of English literature. I mean, this poem is a famous poem and it is prescribed in almost all the universities of the world wherever English literature is taught. It is based on the incidents in the life of Alfonso II, Duke of Ferrara in Italy. The Duke's first wife, Lucrezia, died in 1561 after they had been married for 3 years. The background of the poem is interesting, but the text can be difficult to understand because Browning is also famous for being an obscure poet. The use of dramatic monologue works to separate the speaker from the poet. So then it becomes drama. Drama means character. Character means not the poet, it is the character whose feelings or whose views are presented before the reader or audience, which forces the reader to work hard to understand the words of the speaker and thus hopefully get a grasp of on what the poet is saying. We learn about the Duke by what he says and how he says it. Through him, we also learn about his wife, the last Duchess. We decipher means we interpret or we come to know something of how their relationship stood, what his expectations were, and how she responded, etc. Means the Duke tries to present before the envoy his point of view, but indirectly we also come to know about the real nature of Duchess. Now, before we go to the main point, or you can say development of the idea which is given in the poem, we should know, or every reader, every student should know what is a dramatic monologue, because this poem is one of the finest dramatic monologues ever written in English language. The dramatic monologue is essentially a narrative spoken by a single character. It was very popular during Victorian era, and what happens in this type of poem, that there is a single speaker. He delivers his speech and there is or there can be one or more than one listeners. The listener do not interfere in the flow of the speech, but we understand the presence of the listener by the speakers or by certain things which happen during the speech. The speaker delivers his speech explaining his feelings, actions, or motives. The salient features of the dramatic monologue can be understood better if we compare it with the soliloquy and the drama. Means if we can know the difference between soliloquy and drama. Now, what is soliloquy? In soliloquy, a speaker or the character speaks aloud what is going on inside his mind. The dialogue which he utters are meant to be listened to by the audience, not by the other characters. Means other characters are not aware of what is going on inside the mind of the speaker. That is single speaker. There is a similarity between dramatic monologue and soliloquy. But in dramatic monologue, speaker speaks and the listener or listeners, they listen what he says. So this is the difference between soliloquy and dramatic monologue. Now, the dramatic monologue widely differs from the drama in its purpose and in method. Drama essentially involves external action, outward conflict. It has a sustained plot, and the action does not develop through the medium of a single character, but through a group of characters. Means in drama, there are many characters and they act and react. In a dramatic monologue, on the other hand, there is a single speaker and it is the dissection of the soul of that speaker which the poet attempts. That is, he tries to lay before the audience what is going on in his mind and soul. There is no plot or action, no chronological sequence of events just to be find in drama. The speaker's mind makes over the past, so moves over the past and the future while speaking in the present. That is, there is single character, there are many characters. This is the essential difference between drama and dramatic monologue. Now let us come to the poem. Development of thought. Development of thought means what idea has been presented by the poet in the poem. Now the speaker in the poem is the Italian Duke of the 16th century. The name of his dukedom is Freira. He has been widowed recently, means his wife had died recently. He intends to marry a second time. An envoy, means a messenger, of the count of the neighboring county has come to negotiate with him the marriage of the count's daughter. That is, he has come with a marriage proposal to arrange, to fix the marriage between the count's daughter and the Duke of Freira. The Duke takes him round his picture gallery and shows to him the portrait of his last duchess. Or we can say the Duke tries to impress the envoy, and for this purpose he shows him his picture gallery. He tells him that he alone uncovers the picture and nobody else is allowed to do so. Now see the possessive nature of the Duke. He tells him that it is he who has the right even to touch the portrait of his wife. No other body is allowed to do that. The portrait is lifelike and realistic. It was painted by Ferapendov. The Duke draws the attention of the envoy towards the painted deep and passionate look in the eyes of the Duchess. Means there was something innocence, full of innocence in the look, which was not understood by the onlookers or who happened to see that portrait. In response to the inquiring look of the envoy, the Duke tells him that the depth and passion of her earnest glance was not reserved for her husband alone. In fact, she had no sense of discrimination. She had very childish and foolish nature. She was pleased when she was given gifts, but she used to thank everyone sweetly without differentiating between the pretty gifts of others and the Duke's gift of 900-year-old name. That is, she used to thank people in the same way, whether it is a gift given by the Duke or by even an ordinary person. This attitude of her displeased the Duke. Her habit of smiling and thanking without discrimination continued to grow till it became intolerable to the Duke. At last he gave orders, then all smiles stopped together. These 5 words shows the cruelty of the Duke. Means she was strangled or she was killed. The Duke then indirectly tells the envoy about his expectation of a large dowry and takes him downstairs to meet the other visitors. On the way, he asks the envoy to have a good look at the bronze statue of Neptune, the sea god. In this statue, the god is shown riding and controlling a seahorse. It was made especially for him by the great sculptor Claus of Innsbruck, another imaginary artist. He tries to impress and indirectly tries to give you a message that he keeps absolute control over his wife, and it should be noted by every person who is interested in his marriage. Now, as far as critical appreciation is concerned, this point, the first point, we can say the type of poem. As we know, the poem is an excellent dramatic monologue. It is one of the finest dramatic monologue ever written in English language. The speaker is the Duke of Freira. He is shown speaking his mind aloud to a silent listener who is the envoy, means messenger of a count with a marriage proposal. The speech of the speaker reveals his personality, mind, and nature. So we can say it is a dramatic monologue. The dramatic plunge into critical situation. The poem opens at a critical juncture of the life of the speaker. He intends to marry for a second time. A messenger has come to negotiate with him regarding the finalizing the marriage between him and the daughter of a count. It appears that the Duke is trying to impress on the messenger. Indirectly, he is also making it explicit as to sort of behavior he expects from the girl he is going to marry. That is, he tells directly or indirectly to the envoy what kind of behavior he is expecting from his future wife. Now, third point is character analysis. The poem is an admirable piece of character study. Within a brief compass of 56 lines, the poet presents a vivid and moving character analysis of both the Duke and the Duchess. In just 28 couplets have been used. This is very important. We are not only given a vivid picture of the Duke's temperament, but through his words, we realize the true nature of his last Duchess as well. Means we come to know about the character of both the Duke and Duchess within just 56 lines. Now the fourth point is psychological study of arrogance and possessiveness. As you know, so far we have come to know that the Duke is very proud, tyrant, careless, and hard-hearted. His tyrannical attitude is evident when he says that he alone can draw aside the curtain before the picture. Means he even does not allow anybody else to touch the portrait of his wife. See the possessive nature. Two lines are enough to indicate the effective way in which he deals with a situation unpleasing to himself. He says, I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. Fifth point is brevity. The poem is remarkable for its brevity. That is, he has said what he wanted to say in the fewest possible aphoristic style, we can say conciseness. Just 56 lines are used to give a concentrated picture of a whole lifetime. It shows Browning's genius for condensation. Sixth point is pictorial quality. Browning's pictorial quality comes out well in the poem. We can almost see the half blush that dies along her throat and the spot of joy on her cheek, as well as the impatient smiling glance of her eyes. In other words, when we read the poem, we find that the picture what he has described in the poem comes before our inward eyes. Similarly, the statue of Neptune is crystallized before us with the deftness in a masterly stroke of the pen. Notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse thought a rarity, means a rare work of art. Seventh point is rhyme and meter. The poem is written in 28 rhymed couplets of iambic pentameter. This is very important. Though there are 56 lines, 28 couplets, but the rhyme can easily pass off unnoticed in the poem because the sense is continuous and runs on from one line to another. Because the poet has almost described a story type, so we do not notice even rhyme. Thus, many a reader would easily think that the poem has been written in blank verse. Conclusion. In a nutshell, in brief, the poem is a perfect example of a dramatic monologue. It is one of the best dramatic monologues ever written in English language. It is a piece of action, not of still life. It is dramatic. It is a dramatic scene in a small compass into which is poured all the emotion natural to a character, thus making him reveal himself vividly and powerfully. Very impressively, the poet has achieved his purpose in a very impressive or effective manner, or we can say in a very masterly manner. Thank you very much.